What's the premium for a Denver foothills home? Hey everyone, it's Alyson Wahl with Live South Denver, your real estate strategist and realtor for the South Denver area. Today we're doing part 2 of our Evergreen series. If you haven't checked out part 1, you can do that right up above. So over the last year, about 725 properties sold here in Evergreen. Roughly 644 of those were single family homes. That leaves only about 83 being condos or townhomes. Since there are so few condos and townhomes that sell each year, we're gonna talk about those really quick, and then we're gonna take a deep dive into single family home data. So when I pulled the data for this video, there were 9 active condos and townhomes, and the prices were wide ranging. About $450,000 on the low end to $1.3 million on the high end. Over the course of the last year, both the average and median prices for condos and townhomes have been running in the mid $600,000 range. Footprint-wise, the smallest footprint for a condo or townhome was 700 square feet, so super tiny. But the biggest one was as big as a good-sized single-family home up here, over 5,000 square feet. The median and average sizes, though, run in that 2,000 to 2,100 square foot range. The summary is, if you're looking at something around 2,000 square feet with a budget under $700,000, condos or townhomes would be certainly a place to look up here in Evergreen. Okay, when we look at those single family homes, I did put a few filters on that to make it a little more reasonable for what most people are looking for. 1,500 square feet, 2-car garage, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. You'll definitely want that 2-car garage up here generally, even if you only have 1 car. You're gonna have a lot of toys. Bikes, skis, snowshoes, maybe a snowboard, paddleboarding in the summer, and you're probably gonna need a space to put that snowblower too. So adding that filter in brought us down from 644 homes to look at to 472 homes. That tells us there are some small homes up here if you're into tiny homes. The average sold price last year was $1.29 million for these homes that we're talking about, and the median price was $1.06 million. The average size for these homes was 3,750 square feet, and the median size was 3,400 square feet. That median size and price is certainly one you'll want to look at as probably a little bit more realistic data set, considering some of the grand homes that are available up here. To give you a feel of what grand means, a couple of 10,000 square foot houses sold, one of them on 28 acres, yes, if you please. There are a few 11,000, 12,000, 13,000 square foot houses, a few 16,000 square foot houses too. And while I wish this was one that I had toured, if you haven't seen it, you might want to check out the YouTube video of the Biltmore inspired Chateau 5, the 21,000 square foot home up here in Evergreen that also did recently sell. There were also some more modest homes on very large acreage. We're talking 35 acres, 95 acres, and yes, larger is possible. All right, since there are some homes that are so large, I took some of those larger homes out of the mix. And if we do that and we look at homes that max out at 8,000 square feet, here's what some of the data looks like. The average sales price is then $1.186 million, which is about $60,000 less than when we look at the whole pot. The median sales price drops to a flat million, also about $60,000 less than when we look at the whole pot, the whole pie. The average size drops by about 200 square feet to 3,550, but the median size stays the same. Let's talk about homes that back to open space, are on large acreage, have forest behind them, maybe back to a golf course. These homes have an average price of $1.5 million. Median price, $1.25 million. They do run a bit larger though, 4,300 square feet on average, and the median size 4,000 square feet. All right, so what if we looked at homes that are listed as having a mountain view? I mean, most people want a mountain view when they come out to Colorado. I hear it all the time. Well, actually out here in Evergreen, there are more homes listed as having a mountain view than there are homes that are listed as backing to open space, having a lot of trees, having large acreage, and backing up to a forest, because we are in the foothills. So getting that foothill view or mountain view is really not as hard. Now, it might be a peekaboo mountain view. It's not going to be necessarily a sweeping mountain view, but there are a lot of opportunities for a mountain view up here. So actually the prices for a quote unquote mountain view home align more with the general price point of all homes. So you're generally not really going to pay a premium unless it's spectacular, stunning. All right, so now that you have your bearings for price point of what Evergreen homes go for, size-wise, location-wise, what is the actual premium for living in Evergreen versus living down in the metro area? All right, so I pulled what it would be to have a similarly sized home, median size, in Highlands Ranch, on open space with a mountain view, all the goodies, because that's what most people would want anyway if you're going to be down in the metro area. And here's what the average price is: $1.02 million. And if you were in Broomfield, which is another awesome suburb, you can get similar vibes and great mountain views. Average price is $925,000. That gives us a premium in Evergreen of somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000. That's a lot. Is that premium worth it? What are you getting up here? Well, the views in Evergreen are one of the things that make that nearly $500,000 premium quite worth it. The elbow room, the space, a little room from your neighbors certainly helps. A home in the trees. Look at these houses around me. Having that treehouse vibe, these big, tall, rich trees around you, something you certainly don't get when you're down in the metro area. These trees thrive in cooler and higher environments than down just even at Mile High. There is a difference for where these trees really do their best. Not the primary reason, but does not hurt that the commute time to skiing is cut down dramatically. Your encounters with nature, usually harmless, much more common, and always fun. Who doesn't love seeing the occasional white deer, moor deer, elk, bear, hopefully at a distance, fox, beautiful birds, the baby animals up here, you see so many more. So that's just lifestyle piece is something that's thrilling, especially if you have young kids and you're trying to raise them in a different way than a lot of us grew up. Hardcore city dwellers, neighborhoods, small yards. This is a really unique opportunity up here. You get to have it all with good internet connection. The internet service is generally not an issue up here. Cell service, iffy depending on location though. And ultimately what drives the premium is the fact that there is just not enough of it to go around. Evergreen is a small town. So when you don't have enough homes for as many people who want to live up here, that drives up prices. Those views, that elbow room, that land, it can sometimes bring some things you may not be used to. Specifically, a septic system, a leach field, well water. Over the last 2 years of sales in Evergreen, 55% of the homes were on a septic system and had well water. Only 45% of the homes were on the public water system. So if you're buying up here, odds are certainly in your favor, ever so slightly, that you aren't going to have a traditional sewer system, that you're going to have to learn something about well and septic. If you're not familiar with that, here are some things to consider. Buying a home with well and septic means there are going to be additional inspections. The well inspection falls on the buyer, the septic cleaning and inspection falls on the seller. The well inspection that you may be doing as a buyer is to review your well permit, check your water quality, look at your well pump. Is it actually in good condition? Is it pumping enough water up for you? You're looking to see if you have a dry well or not. Nearly every county around here, including Jefferson County, requires that the seller clean their septic system and go through a transfer process before the sale. That ensures you don't get a damaged or overly full septic system when you purchase the property. Should being on well or septic scare you off as a buyer, or are you good to go once you kind of know some basics? I'm going to be on the side of voting that you're good to go once you know some basics. I'm going to throw some of those basics here at you right now. Wells are fairly low maintenance. You keep a lid on it to keep contaminants out. The key part of the well is really the pump. Once you have it inspected and you know that your pump is in good shape and stays in good shape, you're generally gonna be doing just fine with well water. If we're going through a severe drought, it can be possible that you get low on your well water, but if your well is deep enough, we know good things about the aquifer you're on, again, you're generally going to be doing okay. The septic system is the one that generally has a little bit more of a learning curve. There are solids and liquids and chemicals that cannot go down your septic system into your septic tank. Otherwise, your septic system will need to kind of start over again. The system does need to be pumped and cleaned every so often also. And your septic system comes with a leach field. The leach field is part of the filtering system, and it's in kind of a flat area behind the house or where the septic tank is located. It's near there. The leach field's usually in a large and flat area, and you don't want to build on top of it. You don't want to put a play area. You don't want to put a trampoline. You don't want to have construction go over this area. You don't want to put pressure on this area. And I say all this now because if you go out and look at a property and you don't know what a leach field is, and you look at a large flat area and you think, oh great, I can put a shed there, or I'm going to put a play set there for the kids. You're just thinking of all these things you can put in this large flat zone. No, you can't do that. And if it's new to you, you wouldn't know otherwise. But once you have an inspected septic system, you know you're in good shape, you learn a few things about how to handle one, there's really not much difference for you than having a public sewer system. The trade-off is it's a little bit more maintenance for you when you need to get it cleaned, but you're not paying a water bill every month either. One thing we did not touch on when we talked about home prices is property taxes. So I have heard and seen several of my colleagues say that property taxes up in Evergreen run in the 1 to 1.5% range. Based on the data that I have pulled and the research I have done, that is not what I see. To give my colleagues the benefit of the doubt, maybe they are pulling that data based on the assessor's assessed value of the property, but that doesn't give you as a potential buyer much help when you're trying to calculate rough numbers and scope things out from wherever you're watching. So the data I'm pulling is showing that taxes are running 0.3 to 0.5% of the list prices when you look at an Evergreen property. Colorado reassesses our taxes every 2 years, so it's not like after you sell a home that's been lived in for 20 years, we have this huge reassessment. We are constantly reassessing, so the taxes stay pretty up to date. So when we're looking at 0.3 to 0.5, here are what some of the numbers look like. I'm seeing taxes at under $10,000 a year on $3 million homes. When we bump up in tax rate, I'm also seeing $3,000-ish taxes on $600,000 to $800,000 homes. This is still better than you'll see in most areas in the metro area. Something else to note about homes in Evergreen, most don't have central air conditioning. Now, they're in the trees, it stays cooler up here, but it can still get hot. The hottest temperature last year all the way up in Breckenridge and Vail was in the 90s. We are not nearly that high, so it still gets warm up here. So if you live and die by your air conditioning, yeah, there are other ways of cooling houses. They have swamp coolers and room air conditioners and things like that. But if you love your central AC, only 10% of homes that sold over the last year had central AC. So you're either gonna have to try to install it, which may not be the easiest thing because not every home has forced furnace air, meaning vents running into every room. Some of them have baseboard heat or older styles of heat, or you're gonna have to look at other ways to cool your house, or this isn't gonna be the spot for you. Now, I'm a central AC lover, so that is one of the drawbacks to this area. But opening the windows gets really cool at night. That part's all a-okay. Fresh air is wonderful up here. Some other things to consider about having a home up here. It snows more, and a lot more. So that means more work for getting out of your driveway, more time getting down the roads in the winter. You will certainly want to invest in a snowblower, and depending on where you live, you're gonna wanna get one of those old trucks and put a plow on the front of it. Depends how rural you want to get. Now, when I talk about homes in the metro area, I'm always talking about which way your driveway faces. That's pretty important down there. Up here, while it could help, it probably isn't gonna help as much because most likely you're gonna have a lot of trees. And the trees are gonna cast shade no matter which way your driveway faces. So regardless of whether you are north, south, east, or west, you're probably gonna be pulling out your snowblower because of all the snow. I will say the roads are very well cared for up here. The snowplows do a great job. They consistently do a great job, but you are still gonna need to be comfortable driving in snow, driving on areas where there are icy patches, driving when the snow is coming in. There's just no way to kind of escape the fact that the weather is different up here. Home insurance costs are already higher in Colorado. There is the potential for some areas up here in Evergreen to have even higher insurance costs because of fire risk. That's something else you'll need to consider. You do have some time within the period of a contract of buying a home to evaluate the cost of home insurance. If you find that it's too high, it is one of your contingency dates that you can back out and still get your earnest money returned to you. However, before you jump in, it may be worth having some conversations with an insurance provider ahead of time so that you don't get your hopes up and then get them dashed. The mindset of foothills living is certainly different than metro living, isn't it? I mean, the vibe, I am loving being in this space. The yellow grass, the fall weather. It is high noon in early October and it's warm in Metro, and I am in a light coat and so happy. But there are trade-offs between the two, and which one is right for you? Are you ready to live in a place where you can literally step out your back door and be right on a hiking trail or moments away from one? And I'm not talking about those concrete paths that are in most of the Metro area. I'm talking about real good wooded hiking trail paths. Are you ready to live in a space where you can send the kids outside, where they can build snow forts in the winter, and those snow forts will last for weeks because you're gonna get a lot of snow? Are you ready to live in a place where you can go get in a half day or a full day of skiing and drive home within that same day, probably before 5? You want to live in a place where you can go paddleboarding on the town lake? Now, we do have reservoirs down in the Metro area, so I don't want to shortchange us too bad. Do you love the idea of being immersed in a full Colorado lifestyle while being just 35 minutes or so from downtown and less than an hour from the airport? If all of this sounds good to you, Evergreen really might be an awesome fit. And if you want to chat more about it, you know I would always love to connect. Hey, I will see y'all next week.